Well, welcome everybody. I'm Jeff Finkel, CEO of the Arcview Group, and welcome to today's webinar, Cannabis Meets AI, Hype, Reality, and Opportunity. And we think there's quite an opportunity. So today's conversation is really more about how AI can move from being just a buzzword, become a practical ROI positive tool for cannabis operators in 2026 and beyond. I don't know about you, but generative AI has made me considerably more productive over the last 2 years. And the industry is experiencing one of the fastest technology adoption cycles in history. I think the global AI industry now is roughly a $370 billion market this year, with forecasts pushing it towards a multi-trillion dollar market in the 2030s, in the early 30s. Investment has surged. Private AI funding alone was about 250 billion last year, and generative AI alone attracted nearly 34 billion. But I think what's especially important is that AI is now shifting from sort of a general purpose consumer and business tool to specialized industry specific solutions. And that's where the cannabis sector stands to gain the most. All right, so to parse the subject today, we have Carolyn Matthews from Aquaris AI, who will serve as my co-moderator. And we're also happy to have David Friedson from the US AI Institute, David Friedman from Abstract Tech, and Evan Neeson from Neeson and Company. So today, the way we're going to do this is that David Friedson is first going to walk us through and give us an overview designed to demystify AI and provide a basis for understanding the rest of the program. Then Carolyn, Evan, and David are each going to tell us about some real applications that they've developed and deployed. All of these applications, by the way, were developed on top of popular generative AI platforms and developer protocols. None of these are prepackaged, purpose-built solutions designed for the cannabis industry. We're going to probably do that in a follow-on webinar. But I think the message is that you can do this too, right? You don't have to wait. These are things that you can develop. So before I begin, for our new viewers, I just want to take a second, as I always do, and introduce you to the Arcview Group. So the Arcview Group was founded in 2010 as an investor conference producer serving the cannabis industry. I think we produced some 50 investor conferences at which investors could meet emerging cannabis companies. And in addition, we manage a venture fund called the Arcview Collective Fund. And we have a consulting division that provides a variety of services such as SOPs and operating plans for operators, business valuations, brand expansion plans. We've also mentored a number of social equity license holders, teaching them important skills such as how to communicate with investors and ultimately how to raise money. All very important things that some of them did not know how to do. We have an investor readiness service that helps entrepreneurs message to investors and really understand the archetypes of investors based on the business that they're in and the stage of that business, because it's all very different. It's not one size fits all. This service also helps them communicate with their board and shareholders and give them at board meetings the right amount of information and metrics to track. And we also provide M&A transaction support. That's actually a big part of our business. And we produce a lot of webinars, right? I think some 55,000 people have registered for our Arcview webinars since 2020. And by now, I imagine we produced some 95 different programs on a variety of subjects. So please take a moment in the future and visit our replays page at www.arcviewgroup.com, where we have a library of impactful webinars on many, many topics within the industry and featuring industry thought leaders. All right, quickly, before we begin, a couple of quick housekeeping items. I want to encourage you to stay to the end of the webinar because we have 2 exclusive giveaways for live attendees. I also want to encourage you to use the chat for communication and get to know one another, but please use the Q&A function for questions, as we've reserved time for questions after each application presenter and then again at the end. So that would be great. All right, let me introduce you now to Carolyn Matthews, our former CMO and currently CMO of Aquaris AI. Carolyn, Welcome.
Hi there, nice to be here. Great. Well, thanks, Jeff, for the intro, and excited to be here today and working still with Arcview and a lot of our friends and family in and around Arcview. So, to get us kicked off to the program today, we are going to be taking another poll just to get an understanding of who we have present in the audience today so that we can gear any of our case studies and any of the information that we're going to share around who's actually available today. So please just take a couple minutes or a couple seconds really, and fill that out. And that'll actually help us guide and educate in a way that's best for the audience that's showing up today. Thanks to those that are all showing up live today, while we will be offering this in our replay section at Arcview. Only the folks that participate live. There's a couple special bonuses at the end, as Jeff said. So definitely encourage everyone to stay until the end to take advantage of those. And again, thanks for taking time out of your schedule today in this busy holiday season. Okay, great. So thanks for taking the poll. Next, we want to just start diving into the meat of the juicy program that we have to today. I want to introduce David Friedson. He is the head on an SVP at the United States Artificial Intelligence Institute, and he's going to be giving us a great rundown, a foundational rundown for AI and all that you'll want to build upon because AI is, as everyone already is experiencing, the new wild, wild west. And David's here to help make it a little bit more fun and digestible for us as we continue on this AI adventure. So, David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Carolyn. Thanks, Jeff. Hello, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, have a few slides. I will walk through this fairly quickly. Um, but I want to make sure that so this presentation will be available after the fact. You can also reach out to me directly if you want. I know Carolyn will post my contact information. I am with the United States Artificial Intelligence Institute, and we're the number one global provider of AI education and credentialing, helping professionals navigate the AI landscape responsibly and ethically and with confidence. Think of USAI getting your credential as something like an accountant getting their CPA. So I'll be sharing some tips and tricks for starting your AI journey. And I'll start with just a few key statistics. So 80% of CEOs say that they use AI in their business. So I guess we're done. This is fully mature. Perhaps not so fast. At the same time, there was a recent MIT study. 95% of enterprise generative AI pilot projects fail. Only 8% of companies implementing AI see more than a 5% EBITDA lift. But when done right, retail sees a 10%, 10 to 15% revenue lift and up to 25%, and operations sees 30% cost reduction. So the whole key is how do you do it right? So it's not magic. It is a convergence of technologies that's going on right now. Think of data as the fuel, and without the fuel, there's no motion. And it's the same old adage, garbage in, garbage out. Think of models as the engine design. And I'll tell you that current models and the current architecture still use brute force at speed, though, which is very energy consuming. We all hear about the energy consumption issues with AI. Um, think of compute as horsepower. More compute equals faster results, but it's also more expensive. So this is the current landscape, and I just want to plant a thought, and that's going back to the late 1800s and the Great Horse Manure Crisis. Um, and that crisis was about fears about urbanization in major population areas as industrialization was starting. There was a concern that the horse manure would pile up to the second floor of residential areas. We all know that didn't happen, and even at that time, automobiles were already being manufactured, even though Ford had not yet created the assembly line. But I want you to, I bring that up because whatever we think the future is today is an unlikely reality. Um, so let me talk about some myths. Um, the first great myth that everybody hears and the most common and very misleading is that AI will take everybody's job. AI doesn't replace people, it replaces tasks. It handles the repetitive, manual, time-consuming parts of work. Historically, every major technology shift has created more jobs than it displaced. The reality is human plus AI, augmenting decision making, creativity, and productivity is where it will really come together. Organizations that embrace AI, upskill their people, and create entirely new roles will win. Next myth, you need massive data. Um, the misconception is that you need millions of data points or terabytes of data to use AI. In reality, you can start small. AI thrives on right-sized, clean, targeted data sets. Most high-impact AI use cases begin with data you already have, whether it be your ERP, your CRM, or directly coming from your operations workflows. You can scale as you learn, and you don't need to boil the ocean. In fact, that's probably one of the greatest failures is trying to boil the ocean and do it all. The third myth, AI is only for big tech. This used to be true. Today, it can be further from reality. AI tools are affordable, accessible, require little to no coding. Small and mid-sized businesses actually have an advantage because large enterprises take a long time to adopt and change policy. A small business can adapt and adopt much quicker. The organizations that win are the ones that experiment, regardless of size. So let me talk about natural language processing and LLMs. This is the most transformative and newest area of AI. Natural language processing and large language models, meaning ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the others. Um, NLP, natural language processing, allows computers to understand human language. LLMs take that further. They can generate language, reason with it, and act on it. So think of NLP as the ability to read, and LLMs as the ability to read and write. What makes these models powerful is their ability to analyze massive amounts of unstructured text, emails, journals, research papers, manuals, customer messages, and convert it into actionable insights. This is incredibly valuable in any industry where information lives in documents, notes, or conversations. I've got three use cases at the bottom. I'll let you envision the latter two and just mention the first one. Growers generate a ton of text, cultivation journals, scientific notes, research articles, grower forums. NLP systems can read all that, summarize findings, and surface early indicators of plant health issues. Instead of growers spending hours tracking symptoms, an LLM can analyze patterns, suggest potential causes or adjustments. This shifts crop management from reactive to predictive. Let me So there are a lot of buzzwords and jargon when it comes to AI. But what really matters isn't its terminology, it's how we put these pieces of the puzzle together to drive real business outcomes. Think of AI as like conducting an orchestra. Each technology plays a different instrument, but business value comes from coordinating them. So generative AI, we already talked about. Those are large language models. That's ChatGPT, Claude, and others. RAG combines your data with AI for accurate context aware responses. So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. This solves the biggest concern that organizations have. Can I use our knowledge and safely and accurately with a large language model? It retrieves the right information from your documents, your systems, your SOPs and policies, and it creates responses that are grounded in your facts, not from the general internet. It turns AI from smart to trustworthy and enterprise ready. Machine learning is 7 decades old and it handles repetitive tasks. This is the process that can handle forecasting, anomaly detection. It's the classification of data, routing, image analysis, anything that removes manual repetition. This is where productivity gains stack up quickly with fewer clicks, fewer spreadsheets, fewer human errors. Um, Agents, so the next two, agents and agentic, there's a slight difference between the two. So agents don't just answer questions, they do things. An AI agent might update a CRM, create an invoice, schedule a shipment, process an application. They operate across tools and systems. Agents bridge the gap between insight and action. Agentic AI orchestrates multiple agents so they can work together. So imagine you have an AI agent that is doing things like analysis, or you have a finance agent or a logistics agent. Um, Agentic AI coordinates how they all work together, not linearly. In fact, agentic AI allows them to work together and resolves issues between those other agents. So when we talk about orchestration, we mean pulling these capabilities together, meaning augmentation, automation, retrieval, and agents in a coordinated system that produces real business outcomes. But not everything is AI. I'm not going to go into the detail behind this, but right now the term AI is being slapped on everything, sometimes accurately, sometimes not. It's critical to understand the difference between true AI and traditional automation so you don't overpay for something that isn't actually intelligent. So robotic process automation, RPA, and OCR, IDP, intelligent document processing. These are tried and tested tools. They work and they have value. What they don't do is they don't learn, they don't understand. They are driven by humans through rules. When those rules change, those processes break. AI, on the other hand, learns from data, it adapts, it generalizes, it handles exceptions. RPA and OCR, they don't learn anything. They simply follow instructions. I call this out for you so that you don't pay inflated prices for what really is not necessarily AI. Um, so when we identify AI opportunities, we're looking for places where learning, reasoning, adaptation, and decision making take place. Automation has its place, but AI goes far beyond. So I've got some cool potential use cases up here. AI is not new. These use cases have been battle tested for years in retail, CPG, agriculture, logistics, finance. What's new is that the cannabis industry is now ready to benefit from the same tools. And in many cases, even more because of the regulatory and operational complexity. Um, you're going to get a great set of use cases and see them in practice from Carolyn, David, and Evan. So I'm not going to walk through these that you see. But these aren't hypothetical concepts. They're proven AI playbooks from other industries. Cannabis is positioned to leapfrog by adopting them early, giving operators a competitive advantage and operational edge. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about security. Don't think of security as optional. It's not. As you adopt AI, you need the same discipline you'd expect from any other critical system that's touching customer data, financial information, or intellectual property. Um, the biggest risk comes from using public AI playgrounds. Those are large language models and consumer apps. So when an employee copies and pastes proprietary information into public tools, that data may be logged, stored, or used to train future models. The solution is simple. Use a hosted environment in your secure cloud infrastructure, whether it be Azure, AWS, whatever that is, but that controls your data and your IP. Control the data handling. So not all APIs are created equal. You want verifiable transparency from your tool providers. You want to know where your data goes, how long it stays there, and who can access it. And you want to prevent data absorption. Um, it is a misconception that AI automatically learns from everything you type into it. With the right configuration, enterprise models can be blocked from absorbing prompts or other proprietary content. Um, Responsible AI implementation, it's not just an ethical stance, it's a regulatory requirement in many industries, and it's different across states. One of the biggest areas of lawsuits that I see in talking to many attorneys in this space comes from actually not understanding what you're implementing. So that's critical. Make sure you always hear the notion of having a human in the loop. It's incredibly important because you have to understand not only you want to control the outcomes that come from your AI, but you also need to know from a regulatory perspective what it's doing and why it's doing it. Um, just an important kind of side note, SEO versus GEO. GEO is generative engine optimization. You're probably accustomed now, if you use Google, you type in keywords, but it also responds with a Gen AI response. Um, so in addition to that, I know myself, I oftentimes go directly to a large language model to ask for answers, whether they be product or things to do, whatever it may be. Um, so the strategy on how you optimize for that is very different. Think of about SEO. It optimizes for humans using search engines. GEO optimizes for AI models generating answers. The shift isn't theoretical. It's already happening. As I said, I ask ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity for product advice, research, summaries, and recommendations. SEO optimizes for human searchers typing keywords. GEO optimizes for AI models and the human prompts they respond to. As opposed to ranking algorithms, in GEO, you're trying to ensure your content is retrievable, trusted, accurately represented inside LLM responses. And instead of driving clicks, you want to make sure that you're getting included or cited directly in AI generated outputs. Um, for GEO, model recall, accuracy, citation frequency are all incredibly important. The companies that win in the next decade won't just show up on Google, they'll show up inside AI answers. If your business isn't represented in the data, in that data, and models don't trust you, then you won't exist in the AI economy. Oops. Um, Almost at the end here, folks. So we are, as I mentioned, the United States Artificial Intelligence Institute. We provide asynchronous AI training and credentialing. We've actually created a program specifically for this audience. There is this the scan code at the bottom right, but this certified AI foundational analyst is an introductory course on how to use AI. It's for beginners. We also have advanced courses as well, but you won't find this one on our website. You have to access it through our through the code at the bottom right. Also, I just, by the way, want to mention our AI Next Gen Challenge. We are conducting an AI hackathon next June. So if you have kids, whether they be in high school or college students, we are giving away $12 million in scholarships and $100,000 in prize money to try to help our next generation. And with that, I will turn it back over to Carolyn.
Great, David. Thank you so much for that information. Really appreciate you being here today. The foundational information that you provided is so important for people to take time to learn and digest because we're only going to be doing more with AI and you have to build on something. So if you're just randomly learning, that's why when I found David last year, I was so excited as I entered into the AI space and I wanted a credible source for learning and for even getting certified as I got more and more into this space. So, David, thank you so much for being here today.
Carolyn, before we move on, there's one question I think for David from Kaylee Hepburn. Can you show the scholarship details again, please? Maybe, or maybe
Sure.
just
Yes,
describe them.
let me
Thanks for asking,
share.
Kaylee.
So you can access the scholarship details, or you can just reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm trying to get my there we go. I just at usaii.org. This link takes you specifically to this course. But happy to share all the details. We've got a ton of information about how to get involved, how to get your kids involved, and about the hackathon in June.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. That was an exciting spot. Covered a lot of ground there, and I know David had to cram it into a very short amount of time to give everyone the foundation that we're really hoping to provide everybody in this first AI related program for cannabis. So hopefully everyone got a lot of good value out of that. Of course, our replays will be available to view later, but it's nice to participate live.
All right. I think we want to ask the other panelists now to come on camera.
Yes, we're going to start with Evan from Nissan Co. and he's going to dive into our first use case. Evan, do you want to come on screen? And we're also going to introduce David Friedman at the same time, who is going to be joining us from Abstracts.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Great. Yeah, thanks for being here, Nisa. Evan, we've known each other for years now, and I really appreciate you being here today and learning what you're doing in the AI space. And then immediately following Evan, David Friedman's gonna come up, and then I'll be back also to give you some additional information on other use cases to start implementing AI in your business and services. So Evan, I will pull up the slideshow for you and go off camera so that it could just be your shiny face. So,
Thank you. In the meantime, I'll introduce myself for everyone who doesn't know me. My name is Evan Nissen. I initially started as an advocate before the industry existed. I still am, of course, an advocate, and I'm on the board of NORML, National Organization for Reform Marijuana Laws, and Students for Sensible Drug Policy. And I sort of accidentally started Nissen Co. In 2012, which was the first cannabis PR firm. Since then, we just started doing SEO. So now our core competencies are PR, SEO, and more recently AI consulting. And we've been building tons and tons of custom AI solutions, mostly leveraging what's called vibe coding, so using AI to actually code custom software. And a lot of, most of, not everything, but most of what I'm going to show you is actually free on our website. We have a free AI tools section for PR and SEO tools. And also I'll show you in the slides a Zapier link. Zapier is nice enough to give me a page on their website with free AI agent templates that I created. So with that being said, if you want to move to the next slide, these are basically just some of the tools that I created to give you a sense of how you can use AI in ways that you may not have thought of. Um, uh, so this first one is a SEO tool that I created that connects with your Google Search Console, WordPress or Shopify directly integrates via API. It does external SEO research through SEO data providers, again through API, and it's trained on your brand voice. So it uses the integrations with Shopify or WordPress to train itself on your brand voice, and both visually and with content. And so these are hard to see, but on the bottom right, with all those purple, the screenshot with all those purple buttons. This is a list of basically all of my blogs, and it has the Search Console data that I can sort by, which you can see, those little charts there. And if when I press optimize, it will go and retrieve all the relevant data from Search Console, analytics, do SEO research, look at the links, and optimize the blog and refresh it for me. And again, it's hard to see, but the top image is the AI's sort of thought process, and it explains why it used certain search phrases and why it didn't. It also writes blogs, and on the right, that's just a screenshot of a blog that I had it actually write this morning, because there's talk of cannabis becoming Schedule 3. So this morning, as I was having coffee, I just popped in that idea, it drafted a blog, and now it's on our website live. If you want to go to the next slide, I will show you. People talk a lot about, it's probably pretty obvious that social media is an easy use case for AI. And there's tons of different tools that you could buy. But again, this is one that I just created myself real quickly. You input a blog, and then it uses Claude via API to create platform-specific posts. And then you can edit it, approve it, and then uses a webhook via Zapier to actually publish those posts. So that's just a way to sort of automate some of your social media. And again, that's trained on your brain voice as well. And then the next two, if you want to move to the next slide, the next two slides are sales related. So this is, like I mentioned earlier, some of the tools that I am talking about are free. This is one, if you go to zapier.com/agent/templates, and you go to creators and click my name, Evan Nissen, you'll see this tool and a bunch of others that I created that you can set up in just minutes, templates. And this is one that I created. So me and a marketing agency, I'm looking for marketers and CMOs. So I created this tool with Zapier agents, like you said, with the template that you can get online. It has different tabs, and each tab monitors a different data source or news source. So one of them every morning looks for news wires the prior day. One of them is live throughout the day. So anytime any cannabis industry article is written and published online that triggers through a Google alert, basically, it gets sent to AI. AI will read the article, extract all the cannabis companies from it, then search the internet, try to find their CMOs or head of marketing. If it can't find their CMO or head of marketing, it'll find their CEO or owner, their LinkedIn, and then put them on this Google Doc for me. So all day, every day, this document is just populating. I have one tab, like I said, Newswire, one tab for general news, another tab for cannabis companies that are hiring marketing related roles, so another tab for conferences. So it scrapes conferences for exhibitors and speakers and sponsors. So this just populates for me all day. And then another sales, if you want to move to the next slide, this is also sales related. obviously you can sort of buy these tools. Like there's a lot of service providers in the cannabis industry that will sell you lists of licenses, cannabis licenses and cannabis businesses and lead data. I decided to go online and try to use AI to see if it could do it. And I was actually in the last 3 weeks able to create a database that this is just Massachusetts, but it actually will scrape every state. I'm up to 30 something states. It'll go to the primary source, go to the like the actual state website, um, find the data, scrape the data, and put them in this database. So if you're looking for sales leads, this is another great way, sort of a primary source of information in a way that you may not have thought that you can actually use AI. And there's a lot of other ways. So this is the end of my segment, but there's I created an AI focus group simulator that's free, focusgroups-ai.com. There's lots of ways to use AI for public relations, for brand and review monitoring. So I would think about AI much more than just ChatGPT and Claude.
Terrific, Evan. Does anybody have any questions for Evan? Um,
No,
yeah,
no, later works.
Carolyn put your info. I was going to say, let's get your information out there so that people can contact you about some of these apps that you built. I actually have one question. Evan, give us a sense if there was any licensing arrangements that you needed to execute in order to use these platforms to the extent you have used them.
No, so let me look at my slides again. So for the AI one, no, I integrated. So, you need Shopify, you need an API key basically from either your WordPress or your Shopify integration. Claude, the social media tool, uses Claude. So I pay Claude through my API account. Basically, it's a way for my tool to talk to Claude and send information and retrieve information on the back end. That costs a little bit of money,
So
but there was
you
no
have to
licensing.
subscribe to API access for Claude in order to do that
Correct.
specific.
There's a few things that will cost a little bit of money, but you're talking dollars a day at most.
And did you use one of the AI code generators to write all the code? Did you also use a generative AI or something else to actually write the functional spec for the app? What did you do sort of on the development? How did you creatively use AI on the development side of this?
Sure. So on the Zapier agent is a really easy to use user interface, so that is different, and I highly recommend people check it out. It's a trigger based. I don't know how familiar people are with Zapier, but it's a trigger based a program. It has existed for a long time, but now they have an AI agent feature. So other than that, which like I said, that's trigger based. So you say, when this happens, I want you to do this. So as an example, with the sales tool, I say, when a article comes in through Feedly, then I want you to review the article, extract the cannabis companies, find their CMOs, and put them on this Google Doc, as an
Yeah.
example. The other tools that I shared screenshots of, it's actual software coded by AI. So a lot of times I'm not a developer, but I can create these tools. And a lot of times I'll usually start with ChatGPT and I'll say, how would you recommend structuring this? And then I'll bring it to an AI coder and then ask the AI coder what it thinks and then execute it.
Beautiful. All right. So look, we want to move on to David and Carolyn, but there is one more question. I'll read it quickly. Maybe you can give a quick answer, would be great. Can AI function like a screen scraper to pull info off of dispensary websites for identifying prices and products?
100%. And actually, this is a fun story that I usually like to tell, and I'm surprised I didn't already mention it. But I myself, as a consumer, I'm a fairly heavy consumer, and I have ChatGPT every Friday and Saturday. I look at all my local dispensaries. It knows my favorite products, and it gives me prices and sales data. So I use it as a consumer. You could definitely do that on a B2B level, like on a larger scale. I will say you need to have some function. Like I tried last week to make a tool that just scraped every dispensary in New Jersey every morning and told me old sales. That was too difficult. So you need a little bit more detail, but you definitely can. Yeah, and honestly, I probably could figure that out with a few more weeks, but I'm trying to like build these tools in a couple
Well,
hours and move on
is
right
the
now.
point, Dave, is that if you're creative and smart with a little bit of training, you could be building these tools. Thank you, Evan. That was great
Yeah.
stuff. Let's move on to David. David, maybe you'll start off with a quick introduction to yourself and your fabulous company, which, as you know, we're involved in and we love. So, David, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, David Friedman. I've been in the cannabis industry since 2013. I entered the industry through Arcview. That was my first cannabis event. We've been investing in the cannabis industry for now, I guess, 11 years. I've been active with a number of the portfolio companies, and about 2 years ago, stepped in on a full-time basis with Abstracts Tech. We're market leading terpene and flavor manufacturer. And I stepped in originally as the CFO, which is what my background was, but I've been a closet tech geek for the last 20 years. And I've migrated to the Chief Information Officer of Abstracts in the last year and a half. And we're working on a pretty large digital transformation, which encompasses a significant amount of AI. So I want to jump to the first slide. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit more high level about how we use AI. We're focused almost exclusively on agentic AI. And we're also really focused on building an architecture and an infrastructure that'll allow us to scale in a proprietary way. David touched on some of this, so did Evan, but we started about a year ago building a data lake. And that data lake, we began ingesting our data from our ERP system, from our instrumentation. We also purchased data sets. You can get a data feed from Hoodie, for example, and you can ingest that data into your data lake, and then you can use that data on your own. Behind that is what we call a data dictionary and a vector database. And so rather than using ChatGPT to access all the LLMs, in order to keep the data proprietary, we use a vector database and a data dictionary that gives context to the data that we pull in. So we mix our own data with publicly available data, and then we're able to have data governance and data sharing based on our own models. We will pull in information from ChatGPT or from Gemini or Anthropic, and then we'll use our own tools to be able to generate the AI agents. We do that through MCP servers. There's a client server and a server side, and that allows us, again, to expose our data only on an as-needed basis. And what's important in that is that there's really two prompts in AI. Everybody's familiar with the user prompt, but there's also a system prompt. The system prompt is what sits behind ChatGPT that tells ChatGPT, when you put a user prompt in, here's how I want you to go about accessing this information and delivering this information. So it gives us a lot of customization. We really believe that IP is going to be centered around data in the future. The positive about this is that there's not a lot of data that has been built and stored and managed for AI. There certainly is plenty out there, but you have to do a lot of scrubbing, a lot of tagging, a lot of storing so that you can use this in the future with your AI agents. So this is the data structure and architecture that we spent about a year building so that we can manage and control our AI environment. Want to jump to the next slide, Carolyn? So I took a class, didn't know about David's classes. I'm actually very interested in one of the classes that he has, but I took a class at Harvard that was specifically for agentic AI. Agentic AI, as David and Evan explained, are agents that can automate workflows. They have an agentic workflow that is spelled out with the word agent, and that's what we use. One of the examples is a sales research agent, similar to what Evan did, but more proprietary. So the first step in that workflow is to understand how the work's being done today. And our sales agent, our salespeople go into that salesperson's HubSpot record and they look at their order history, and then they go out to the internet and they look at their website, and then they do a search for any press releases, right? That type of thing. That's the human current audit of the interface. And then we gauge the workflow and we reduce it to the target process. so that it's fast and accurate client recommendations. And then the most important part is engineering the workflow. And I think David touched on it, but human workflow is done sequentially. So you go out and you look for information, and then you look for the next piece of information, and then the next piece of information. The agentic AI workflow is done in parallel. So it's simultaneously going into my data lake. It's grabbing my customer data. It's telling me the order history. It's looking at the hoodie data, and it's telling me what data is corresponding to that product in that marketplace. It's looking at what's going on outside in the ether and also telling us, what we can do. And it's also looking at my calendar and telling me what my upcoming appointments are, and then putting that information into HubSpot in advance of those meetings. So I have a summary, and in some cases, even a presentation ready to go. Mapping the workout, again, David, I think touched on this, is, the human agent relationship, right? So what are the things that the human being needs to do? Tell the agent what, data to look at, and what are the things that the agent itself needs to do. And then the most important part of all of this, just like anything else, is tracking the agent workflow, right? So we're looking at KPIs that help us understand close rates and product market fit that is more rapid in closing deals, and those types of KPIs that let us know that the agents are moving things faster, more accurately, giving our salespeople tools. We're not as focused on trying to find new customers. We do have that, but we've got a pretty good market penetration in the cannabis space. And so it's all about, for us, trying to understand who our clients are and how we can stay in front of them and introduce new products to them, and do that in a way that doesn't monopolize the salespeople's time and energy. And so it's a similar research agent on the sales plane, but different than the sales research agent that Evan used. And that's really the workflow that we employ. We'll iterate from here, but Harvard was a good place to start. It was a great course, but it was very specific around agentic AI. We've probably got a goal of building 25 to 30 agents in 2026. And as both David and Evan said, the whole purpose of that agent workflow is to allow humans to upskill and go in and govern the agent output and give it its own voice based on our tone, or as Evan said, your brand voice, right? And so that's why, for us, having all of that information in a data lake and in a vector database, and having a data dictionary, so we can expose the data only when we want, and it's not locked in these outside tools. We use an agentic AI tool called Mach 1. We do pay for it. It's not terribly expensive. You're paying for interactions, you're paying for GPUs. As we scale up, it's going to get into the tens of thousands. Right now, we probably spend $1,000 a month, something like that. Most important thing I would say with respect to all of this is just get started. Paralysis by analysis. You need to move. It's okay if you do something wrong, but you got to learn, and you got to learn with your own data and with your own workflows. Trying to go through a course and listen to a webinar and listen to other people's workflows is great, but you got to get in there and get your feet wet.
Yeah. That's I experienced that when I was learning Excel. You try to learn, but once you have, I remember this is way back in the Lotus 1-2-3 days, before you could actually find
You're
a
dating yourself.
that would do your income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. I had to create one. I had to figure
Right.
out if ending cash, move it here, but you just have to start. And it was
Yeah.
through that process I became proficient. So I'm sure the same holds. David, and I know you're iterating this app, right? And you're going to further iterate it, but how long did it take to develop something that was useful to the company?
Not long. I mean, the beta test cases took a few days. Now, keep in mind, I have a team of engineers, and so the resource availability, they're all very busy doing other things, but I was able to allocate resources to these beta tests. I was able to work with an external partner. the iteration is going to take months, but it only took us a couple of weeks to get the beta agents out there and functional. And training the agents is taking weeks and weeks and weeks, and iterating those agents is weeks and weeks. I would say probably takes a good 2 months before depending on the complexity of the agent, before the agent is, commercially viable, right? Before we put it in front of customers and that type of thing, different agents, internal use cases right away. We could use that to create corrective, measures and train the agents, and that's why we started with internal use cases.
Amazing. And Evan, just curious, you've done so many. What's sort of the average? I don't know if there's a real average, because I'm sure, and David, I know you're using more of an agent-based solution. Evan, maybe less so. Evan, how long, does it take for you to develop one of your apps? What's sort of the mean time?
It ranges a lot, but it's really remarkably fast. And I, as a non-developer, I think I take a different path. I was talking about this with my friend, like I'm if it works type of deal. So I don't know if like every developer would be down for that. But as an example, that database of cannabis licenses, I think has like 39,000 licenses. And I probably spent an hour a day on it for a couple weeks. So anywhere from if it's a simple thing like a lead gen widget I create in an hour for missingco.com, like we have like like press release writers or whatever, like that could be an hour and a half. The full-blown blog tool, that would be, I mean, right now it does writes blogs, it integrates with all those things I told you about. It writes blogs, refreshes blogs, writes service pages, refreshes service pages, and does a whole bunch of things, and that probably took 20 hours is my best guess, 20-25 hours. But
Pretty special.
yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
All right, so we don't have tons of time. Carolyn, let's go off to you so we can learn about Kind Voice, your solution.
Okay, great. I'll get started there and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Excuse my voice. Okay, let's get started here. Okay. Okay, great. So everyone is obviously getting a really good swath today of who's doing what in the industry with different approaches to AI. So David Friedman has a whole team of engineers, as you heard. Evan, basically we've been peers for a long time being in the marketing space. And then just because of the way his brain works, he's able to kind of quickly expand into developing your own applications and custom applications depending on what client needs are. So my approach was a little bit different in wanting to get into the AI space. I've always been in a disruptor space, so to include voice over IP and doing patents at Experian, and cannabis, of course, is a disruptor, and then AI. So the AI space was the next best fit for me. And being a career marketer, the last mile of the marketing and sales process was always a pain point for me. So I would always find that doing all of the marketing efforts and doing the ad creation and generating leads for companies, then you generate the leads and you kind of cross your fingers and hope for the best. So when I decided to approach and dive into AI, I'm kind of in a middle ground between what David just talked about and what Evan talked about, is that I'm actually leveraging technology for a specific application. And that application is very focused in the space that's kind of been a pain point for me all my career, which is this last mile of the business and marketing sales, marketing and sales architecture. So everybody in business is familiar with what our core roles as marketing and salespeople are. We're supposed to attract, everything rolls into these categories. We're attracting leads, we're converting leads, or we're retaining leads. So the biggest issue for that we'll describe and I'll go into a little bit in use case one is up to 73% of leads are actually lost. So when I've been generating ads and doing marketing and creating branding and doing partnerships and creating leads for various companies over my career, that you go into a zone that you kind of cross your fingers and hope that it goes the rest of the way. It's a point of contention for most all marketers is that the metrics are very difficult to track once it leaves the marketer's space. So being able to zero in on that application to help companies know how to take it the last mile and over the threshold to actually conversion and retention. So this first use case is very simple. It's when you're losing leads, where are the gaps and where are the holes in your process that they're seeping through? And this is example number one. And you could see the importance of response within minutes. You don't have hours, you don't have days, and you definitely don't have weeks. So this is a big pain point for a lot of companies, and a lot of companies spend a lot of money on the attract part of the process, but they don't necessarily have the bandwidth or haven't dissected attract. Everyone focuses a lot of money and budget on that, but the next steps of conversion and retention are extremely difficult to get your arms around and understand where you're potentially hemorrhaging leads that you're paying money to generate. So the solution for this specific use case is something we call AI speed to lead. And this is where we actually meet up with the leads wherever they come in, whether it's on your website, whether it's through a form submission, whether it's through inbound calling. And as soon as the leads come in, we have various AI technology that's either answering phone, interacting through conversational AI, real time and at scale. So this fixes part of the big problem that a lot of businesses don't even know that they need, and hemorrhaging out the leads through various sources in their lead flow and their lead generation. So instead of continuing to push money to an attracting, this use case is really the first one to show the example of you need to actually stop for a minute and assess what you're already doing and make sure that you are not hemorrhaging the leads that you are paying to attract. Next use case, we're going to talk about dormant databases. And I've worked with many companies, especially in these last few years, working in the AI space and working in the cannabis space, is databases are an essential part of your company's valuation. And if you're not taking care of it, if you're not nurturing it, it almost becomes an anchor as part of your company valuation. So this next use case focuses on the value of your database and the ability to really keep interaction going, leveraging AI. And it's not just through workflows. It's actually using AI to have smart conversations based on the last conversation that you just had with them, based on history, because customer retention is over 70% of a company's typical annual revenue. And for it not to be cared for is a big problem. So you're addressing here customer retention, but you're also addressing here the ability to make smart decisions, have regular communications with your database, reactivate dead leads that are just sitting there taking up your space and skewing your metrics. So this is another point, an area for companies to consider looking at right now. And these are all these use cases are things that you can do in your business right now. The way that we activate and we utilize technology in the AI space, which is readily available, is also known as outbound AI. So it's either reactivation AI or outbound AI. And that's when we're proactively going back and having those conversations with your database, with dead leads that are just taking up space, as I said, to constantly nurture that database and so that they have a regular relationship. So you extend the life cycle of that relationship. Here's a ROI example of, just simple math. And this is just an example based on churn rates that are pretty common. But just take this example and apply it to your own business and make sure that you have this gap filled, because it is detrimental to a company, and it breaks my heart to watch companies pour more and more into marketing and advertising only to have it die on the vine, basically in a dormant database. I'll go over another one really quickly. I know we're running out of time. The last one is a use case for only having a certain percentage of the work week covered. So there are 168 hours in a week, and our normal work week is 40 hours. So think about the ability to have the rest of that period of time covered, because people are going to contact you and reach out when it's convenient for them. So if there is not a way for you to connect instantly with prospects that are coming in, then you've lost them. You literally have, as I showed in the earlier chart, you have less than minutes to be able to connect with them. And it doesn't have to always be with a human. A human is great and ideal, but considering they only cover 40 hours a week, you don't want to just leave it up to that interaction to be able to secure that relationship. Otherwise, they're quickly going to move on. So this is the way that we cover and we handle with AI receptionists, and we AI BDR associates, AI customer service agents, is that we help them to capture where the leads are coming in, vetting and qualifying the leads as they come in, so nothing is lost, the relationship established, the data is secure, and then you book appointments or you transfer calls real time, never losing and missing a beat in digesting and taking in all of these leads that you're spending budget, time, resources, and attention trying to generate. So that's a super quick way to just talk about the lead conversion space, and you can fix gaps now just by using some simple AI tools that are readily available.
Great, Carolyn. Thank you. That's great stuff. Incredibly useful. We're going to go over maybe just about 5 minutes. It's 4:01. That's okay. So Carolyn, let me just, I think you have a second survey that you want to pull up.
Yep, we have a second survey just to get a little bit more information about how everybody enjoyed the program today. We tried to pack a lot in here. We're all very diligent at trying to stay on time, but there's so much to share and talk about this really rich subject. So yeah, let us know how you thought about the program and if there's more content like this that you'd like to see in the future.
Okay. Now you want to sort of make the offer that we've got.
Yep. The other thing, as you go towards closing, Jeff, and you close us out, we wanted to circle back to all of those folks that stayed with us until the end. We do have a special code for USAII. Was incredible to create a special certification program because of the Arcview Access program that we had today. And if you use this code, you're actually able to get a discount on that certification. So if you're going to take AI that level of serious, or anyone in your company that you want to step into that role, this is a great next step in order to do that. So I will share the code in the chat in just a moment. And then in the meantime, Jeff, I will let's see, we have the code up once, and I'll share it separately as well. And then just type in this code, and then you'll be able to do that. And the other thing that for all those that stay till the end, Aquarius, my AI company, is doing free AI readiness assessments. So if you're really trying to explore where you might be able to start incorporating AI into your company, I'm happy to have those conversations. And David Friedman and David Friedson, if you want to come on as well, in case there's any like final questions that have come in. I know we're going a little bit over here, but
We've got one question. Let's just throw it out. Let's just limit it to a 1-minute answer. What low-hanging fruit in a cannabis business is ideal candidate for an AI solution? Maybe Evan or David Friedman would take this, since you've been involved in the industry as operators at some level, or service providers.
Almost always it's going to depend the type of business you are, but like sales, marketing is one that almost every company needs in some way, shape, or form, which is why I covered those. So I would say look there.
Great. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, look, I'd like to thank all of you, Carolyn, David, and David, for sharing your knowledge with us. You've got a lot of direct experience. And cannabis companies face complex regulation, tight margins, operational inefficiencies, all areas where AI really excels. And we're already seeing AI being used in cultivation and optimization compliance, supply chain forecasting, which we saw today, even things like retail personalization, which I've seen. So really does fit here. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is, as David said and Evan said, just get started now. Don't
Mhm.
wait. If you can
Yep.
conceive it, you can do it. Whether you can do it yourself or you hire one contractor to kind of walk and work with you, you can get this going. It's never been easier. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Look for announcements about our future programming. I think the next one we're going to do is we want to explore maybe some AI solutions that are purpose-built for the cannabis industry. So stay tuned for that, and you'll be hearing from us. And again, thank you for trusting your hour with us today, and good luck in all your pursuits. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the
Thanks.
time. Thanks, everyone,
Hey,
for joining. And we'll have the
thanks, everyone.
replay available in the next few days.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to link me in, I'm happy to chat and help them.
Perfect. And I put that in the chat group in the chat so everyone can pick that up as well. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Way to go.
Same. Thanks.